I'm a brain injury survivor. I've had a TBI now for 13 years. It means I have cognitive and physical disabilities. And sort of my journey onto the PhD was a bit weird, actually. I set my goal while I was in the brain injury clinic, and all of my rehab, all of that, it was all geared towards achieving this goal of getting the PhD. And I did it. And I was terrified. All I could think about was how unsuited I was to this. I struggled with comprehension, I struggled with memory. I was essentially in a field that's all about brain power, and my brain was sort of just held together with blue tack and optimism by this point. And I very distinctly remember sitting in with my main supervisor in our first meeting and him giving me this big load of academic information. And I'd say my body was still in the chair, but my brain had gone home by that point. But I couldn't say anything to him about it. I couldn't say, can you repeat yourself? Can you explain that in more simplistic terms? Because all I could think about was this guy, this esteemed academic, has took a chance on me to be his PGR. And I've turned up to our first meeting with a big list of reasons I'm going to make his life harder. And I didn't want that. I wanted him to see me the way he saw all the other PGRs, as potential academics, not as this problem that has constantly got to be solved. And I didn't know where to turn to for support. Now, I got incredibly lucky in that my co-supervisor, Constantina, turned out to be sort of the disability fairy godmother. And she, I think a week before I started the PhD, she found out she was going to have to take this woman who'd spent the last 6 years in a bed, whose sort of big achievement was she was now allowed to cook her own tea, and make her into a doctor. And she went to DAS, and DAS were unable to help her. They just didn't have any support for PGRs at the time. That has changed. Well done, DAS. So she was on her own, and I think most people at that point would have just given up. She did not give up. She created her own sort of support plan for me. She worked with me. She sat with me for 18 months just relearning really basic stuff like bones of the human body. She looked out for career development opportunities for me that would work. All sorts of things like that. She got me, she adapted my crutch, which was amazing. She put an all-terrain thing on the end so that I could go on sort of muddy terrain and stuff and I wouldn't sink. Which sounds like such a little thing, but having her there to support me was such a massive thing. And off the back of that, I sort of met other people like Jackie Carter and Stephen Pearce, and they all sort of worked with me and they made... So yeah, and that's kind of how the project was born. I was very aware that I got exceptionally lucky in that I got surrounded by amazing individuals within a system that isn't always set up to support us, and they went out their way to support me.
Okay, so it's clear that disabled people, and Laura's story absolutely exemplifies this, how much harder they have to work to deal with the barriers that they are confronted with when they want to become an academic as a postgraduate researcher or an early career researcher. But that passion and enthusiasm, you know, and that love of subject that they bring to their studies, in addition to everything that we've heard Laura talk about, is just so important because that creates an incredibly rich culture and environment for other researchers. Okay, so the peers that we have coming through the university, you know, we have to embrace that. We have to embrace that love of subject and provide the same opportunities, even though the barriers might be higher, in order to get this richness and diversity and disability inclusion for the University of Manchester, because without that we have a culture that isn't inclusive. So, you know, the project is all about ensuring that we do have an inclusive culture.
Okay, well, Laura's story really shows us that there isn't one cookie-cutter strategy that is going to make a research career accessible to all disabled researchers. So what this project really is about is finding a whole host of strategies and empowering students, early career researchers, and their supervisors to make the adaptations that is going to give everyone an equal shot at doing the kind of research they're capable of.
The hope for myself is to continue working in disability activism, especially at the University of Manchester, because I know this is cheesy, but I love this university. It remade me, and I want to remake it now and make it equitable. I want to make it so... I've always felt, like I said, that pressure to be the perfect academic, because I'm aware that there is 100 disabled academics behind me, and if I mess up, the door slams shut. And my hope is that door gets took off the hinges, and people don't have to come and pretend that everything's okay and that they have to be this perfect way. I want future disabled PGRs to have this level playing field. I want that for them. I want them to have the same experience as other PGRs here. I don't want them to feel the way I felt when I started. I want them to feel the way I do now.